Welcome to The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. With me today, not in studio, but actually we're both doing a brand new concept called Riverside, and we're recording this on Riverside. But I've got Steve Goreham here. You've heard from him before. He is an energy expert, and he's the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America and an author of 3 books on energy, climate change, and sustainable development with over 100,000 copies in print. Steve's new book, Green Breakdown, The Coming Renewable Energy Failure, will be out July 1st. Steve, thank you for joining my program.
Jeannie, great to join you again.
Yeah, so just before this, we started here, I was talking to you casually, and I asked, is the market going to save us? Are we going to be saved because this is actually fantasy land? It's not anything that's going to really happen.
Yeah, I think economics are going to win out, economics and science at some point, and the renewable energy transition is based on really faulty economics, faulty science, the fear of man-made global warming, but wind and solar and batteries are just not going, and hydrogen fuel are not going to be able to do it. But nevertheless, the world is plowing to head. Saturday is Earth Day 2023. 50 some of these now since 1970, and so we'll all be asked to, I think we already had an Earth Hour in March, turn off your lights, but a lot of other things like cut your emissions, watch what you wear, don't eat any meat that's sort of the thing that's going to be going around.
Oh my gosh, it's almost like going through a second set of Lent. Is it another Lenten season for us all where we need to, do all these other crazy stuff just to, to show that we care for the climate? By the way, who doesn't care for the environment, honestly?
Well, I was a kayaker for 25, 30 years. I really love the environment and the rivers, and we all want our air to be clean, our water to be pure. But of course, the big problem with all this is the idea that carbon dioxide is now a pollutant, that we have to get rid of it, which is really nonsense, and we're in the midst of the biggest superstition in modern history. And what's really sad is around the world we have many people that don't have access to low-cost energy, don't have access to electricity. Mm-hmm. I'm reminded of this one great picture of the Korean Peninsula, where you see all the lights on at night on the South Korea, and North Korea there's nothing, a little bit around the capital Pyongyang, but everything else is black. We have about almost 800 million people today that don't have access to electricity, and there are the total of about 3 billion that either don't have access or have blackouts every day or every other day. Yet the world is pushing intermittent sources to try and solve that, and wind and solar are not going to be able to do that. So I think we're going to get back to reality at some point.
But no time, but not soon enough, quite frankly, because we're going to be spending billions of dollars already in the United States alone just for their fantasies. And we're talking now about them forcing electrical vehicles on consumers. I actually don't know that that's going to come to fruition, but they are trying like hell to make it very difficult to own a gas-powered vehicle. They also want to go to the extent where they want to ban your gas stove. They want to ban your gas dryer. They want you to heat with electric. Why can we not get common sense here? The Wall Street Journal just had an article today about this. Holman Jenkins, writing there, says, when I pestered a senior Biden climate official a few months ago about the counterintuitive argument that green handouts won't reduce fossil fuel consumption, he surprised me by finishing my sentence. He said the only real solution for governments is to put a price on carbon, he said, and he speculated Democrats and Republicans might break the ice with a carbon-related import tax. So that's their solution. Subsidize, vehicles that people don't want to buy, and at the same time, tax anybody who wants to do things that is actually probably better for the environment long term and certainly makes sense for them personally.
Yeah, it is. There's a huge amount of money out there right now. The Inflation Reduction Plan, hundreds of billions of dollars going to renewables, going to electric vehicle subsidies, going to build charging stations all over. So the Biden administration and the EPA is certainly trying to force this. So why don't we talk about electric vehicles a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that because you have a number of slides that we are going to put up for our viewers to see. And if you're just listening to this podcast, you can always go to breakthrough-ideas.com and you can watch the podcast as well. And you could look at these same slides that Steve has. I'll probably also tweet out a few of them after this podcast is recorded. But talk to us a little bit about electrical vehicles and how how viable they really are for the average consumer.
Right, so electric vehicles are here to stay. We've had great advances in lithium-ion batteries and other technologies over the last 20 years. Last year, about 13% of global new light vehicle sales were electrics. Much of that was in China. In the US, it's about 7% of our vehicles. In Europe, it's much higher, over 20% for many nations. So we now have about 27 million electric vehicles on the road. But that's out of 1.5 billion light vehicles, so it's still a little under 2%. The big advantages with electric are you can charge at home. That's the top advantage. You can charge in your garage. If you upgrade your garage charger, you can charge in 3 or 4 hours. Mm-hmm. But then there are a lot of disadvantages. One of those is driving range and weight, a big issue. A Honda Civic can go, gas-powered Honda Civic can go about 360 miles on a 12.4-gallon gas tank, 77.5 pounds of fuel. So if you're trying to put a 77.5-pound battery into a Chevy Volt, say, you can only go 21 miles. You have to increase the size of the battery by a factor of 17 to be able to go the same distance as that Honda Civic. And so as a result, electric vehicles are going to be about 50% heavier than traditional diesel or gasoline vehicles. So weight and driving range are a big issue. Vehicle cost is a big issue. An example I often use is in 2022, a Toyota Corolla gasoline car, manufacturer price about $20,000. You have to pay about a 54% premium up to over $30,000 for a Chevy Bolt EV. So the vehicles are going to be more costly, although you can again charge at home, but charging at public chargers is also expensive. There are some other big issues with electrics too. I think it was the University of Chicago that did a survey of EV owners in California, a pretty wide survey. And they found that the average electric vehicle is only driven 5,400 miles a year. And the average, a regular gasoline vehicle that's the mainstay of a family is 12 or 13,000 miles a year. So you have to kind of think that, well, a lot of these electric vehicles are second car toys for the rich, which is really the way it is.
Well, it's got to be because the average cost is so much higher. Yes. Yeah.
It is much, much higher. The other thing is people are finding out that you can't really charge these in the winter. If you get down to about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, the range goes down by about 30%, and then you literally cannot charge at a charger that isn't in a heated garage. If you're out somewhere and you're trying to charge, it literally will not charge down below about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Which is sort of amusing to me because the nation of Canada has said by 2035 they're going to go to all electrics. So unless they heat all their garages, nobody will be able to drive from December through February in Canada. That's not going to work out real well.
Well, I'll be honest
with
you,
Steve. Another thing
is,
of course...
Steve, let me pause you there for just a minute. I mean, my brother-in-law sells cars. I'm not going to tell you which company he works for. But he was relating the same situation, I'm actually in South Dakota right now, and that's where he has the car dealership is that he works for and sells cars from. But it gets very, very cold in South Dakota, and he said, one of his clients bought an electric truck and could not get it to charge in the freezing cold. Yeah. So it's like he was out of luck. You can't take the vehicle anywhere. You can't get 25 miles on it.
Well, things can grow very fast when they're new, and they're the Tesla's a new thing to do for everybody, and when they're small and certain people use them. But when you try and apply that to a mass market, it's going to be difficult. Another issue is driving distance. I'm in Virginia now. My wife and I have a second home here. We're we split our time between the families and the grandkids and kids. And so every year we drive between Chicago and Virginia. For the first 300 miles, you go fine in your electric, but then you got to stop and charge a half hour to go another 100 miles and a half hour to go another 100 miles. It would just take forever to do it. So people don't realize it though, but as you talked about, the Biden administration and Environmental Protection Agency are intent on eliminating gasoline vehicles. And the way they're doing it is the EPA is putting in emission standards, carbon dioxide emission standards that are very low, and also mileage requirements on vehicles. If things continue as they are, it's going to be impossible for the auto dealers to provide lines of internal combustion engine cars. And hey, I don't want to get rid of my electric car. I don't want to have problems in the winter and driving long distances and paying the price. But people need to realize that they better speak out to their representatives and say, hey, you got to give us a choice here. If we want an electric, that's fine. But don't force everybody through these rules to go to an electric vehicle.
But let's talk about this even a little bit broader, because it's not just simply the purchase of one electric vehicle and then you're going to have to charge it however you can. That is just one of many issues when we talk about electrifying everything in our life instead of using other sources of energy like natural gas or coal. But by the way, we are still going to use natural gas and coal and nuclear power to provide the electricity to charge your car. But they want to go a step further. I mean, and let's get specific with Illinois. A couple things I want to bring up. First of all, the electrical vehicle count for March of 2023 in the state of Illinois, and you can look this up at the Secretary of State's office. I'm not making up these numbers. They're all there by zip code. They tell you how many vehicles are registered. They're electrical vehicles by zip code. The total from right now, March 2023, I know we're in April, but I'm waiting for the end of the month, is 64,989. Now, last year at this same time, it was 39,979. So you've got a difference of about 25,000 vehicles that have additionally been put on the market in that time frame. Their goal is 1 million electrical vehicles by 2030. I think it's unachievable. Even if you were to double up every time, like in 2021, there was only 27,000 electrical vehicles. So you had, a change of about 12,600. Then you had a change of 25,000. Let's say that trend continued, which I think is not possible at all. You would maybe get to 1 million vehicles, but not until about 2028 in total. And so, this is, to have that doubling effect. I mean, we're not going to be selling 800,000 cars additionally in 2028. I don't think that that's going to happen. So I think their goals are outrageous, but they don't care. They're doubling down just right now. This bill passed through the Illinois Senate, and it passed a House committee yesterday. And this creates the Electrical Vehicle Charging Act. It provides that any new single-family home and newly constructed or renovated multi-unit residential buildings that have parking spaces are constructed or renovated after the effective date of the act provides that they shall have at least one electrical vehicle capable parking space for each residential unit that has a dedicated parking. So, I mean, they're already coming in with their mandates to right. Put these charging stations in. We know with the CEJA bill that passed in 2021 that they also have massive subsidies. I think that taxpayers are supporting by 80% the cost of electrical vehicle charging stations going in throughout the state. So they're going to make us suffer anyway, whether we want to buy an electrical vehicle or not. They're going to make us suffer. And at the same time, Steve, they want to shut down the actual power supply that actually generates the bulk of our energy right now. They want to shut down gas. They want to shut down coal. You can go, and I've talked to my audience before, you can go to the MISO app, you can go to the PJM Now app, and you can look at where our energy is coming from at any time during the day. And I'm telling you right now, except for these previous windy days that we've had lately, wind and solar have been below 10% all the time. And at night, solar is obviously never in effect. So at the same time, they want to force us into electric vehicles. They want to dampen down our supply, our reliable supply of electrical energy. I mean, what the hell are they smoking? Everybody can see this.
Yeah, it's going to break down. So on the chargers are going to be a very poor deal for everyone. Just if you take a gas station, uh, a gas pump costs about $20,000, and you can serve a customer in 5 minutes. A high-speed 50 kilowatt DC charger costs $100,000, and you can serve a customer in 30 minutes. So it takes 5 times the capital investment and takes 5 times as long to serve a customer. So unless there's a whole lot of government subsidies, which there are right now, none of these utilities are going to want to use these. We have problems with theft. We have a problem at night. I mean, which woman's going to want to sit out there after 8 o'clock at night and charge her car in a location with no other people? It's going to be an issue. We also have people running around cutting off these cables because they can sell the copper.
Wow.
Apartment owners just aren't going to want to do this. It's going to be very expensive for them. They're going to have to get transformer upgrades. They will never break even on these chargers. We also have the state of Minnesota right now. That is the utility up there. I forget the name of the utility, but says, okay, we'll go put in several hundred chargers, and we're going to charge all the ratepayers for this. Mm-hmm. All the people that don't have electric cars are not going to have to pay higher electricity bills to put in all these chargers. It's just not something that is going to be very balanced, and people are just going to lose all kinds of money on these chargers. But electric vehicles are going to penetrate the market. There's no doubt about that. The problem is forcing everybody to do it. That should not be done.
Sure, and they're probably going to be a niche vehicle. Maybe they're your second car that you use for short trips or whatever. But they're going to be very niche for a long time coming. And my problem is that before this all gets settled out in the marketplace, we will have, as taxpayers, invested billions of dollars into failed industries, propping up technology that really does not work for the long term. We've got to let this grow as it's going to over time. We can't continue down this path, but we are, and it's getting worse. Let me give you a couple more examples of things I wanted to talk to you about. So under CEJA, they allowed counties to make siting decisions on wind and solar projects in the state of Illinois, and then just this January, that was all reversed with Governor Pritzker backtracking on a promise that he made. He promised that he would keep those siting decisions at the county level. He completely backtracked, saying now to the point that solar farms can be within 150 feet of a non-participating owner's building or 50 feet within a non-participating owner's property line. Regardless, they've got these massive solar developments that they want to come in and put on fertile farm ground. Now, however, they're understanding that, some places that the solar companies want to go aren't beneficial long-term for other business opportunities. And I'm talking about a particular bill. I forgot the number of it right now, but it's a bill run by Republican Win Stoller, and it basically protects the enterprise zone that's right near the intersections of Interstate 88 and 39. And that enterprise zone was not being developed fast enough. And so the solar companies wanted to come in and place solar panels there. But everybody knows that is not the highest and best use for property near really important interstates. It's where you want to put your warehousing or your manufacturing concerns. But here's the problem. It's also, they're putting solar in places where we've got fertile farm ground. Like, they're backing away from some of their requirements, and nobody's paying attention. Nobody's calling them out for their hypocrisy. Every Democrat voted for that bill, by the way. It went out unanimously.
Yeah, I was reading that there was something like 18 or 20 counties that said we don't want wind and solar, and so the state said, okay, we're going to pass a law and overrule everybody. We're going to take it out of local hands. And it's all because of this goofy idea that they think they can control global temperatures on this. It is just really, really, really crazy. I don't know how much time we have today. Maybe we should move on to gas stoves a little bit.
Yes, let's talk about those. That'd be great.
So one of the big drives for the green movement is a thing called electrification. Electrification used to mean getting electricity out to rural areas, but now it means turning everything into electricity, getting rid of gas, getting rid of gasoline or diesel vehicles, using EVs, and getting rid of gas appliances in homes. And so we now have communities and states passing bans on residential gas fuel. And there were some papers that came out early in the year, and one last summer too that I responded to and wrote a paper on, but about health issues. And if you look at who is writing these are all folks that are great proponents of initiatives to stop global warming. This really isn't about health, it's about global warming. But anyway, these papers came out and said, well, we find that pollutants from, and by the way, stoves are the only thing of interest because your water heaters, your other gas appliances are vented, furnaces vented to the outside. So it's really only the stove for indoor pollutants. Anyway, they said the levels of nitrous oxide are too high in a home, basically. But what they did was, to get it above the EPA limits for indoor pollutants, they would turn an oven and a stove on for 2 hours, and they would seal the kitchen in plastic so that so that the pollutants couldn't, things couldn't disperse. And then that's the only way they could get this above EPA requirements for pollutants. So it's all kind of a forced thing.
Can we call that junk science? Can we call that junk science? Is that junk science?
Well, it's kind of a shame, but it's a little bit like calling carbon dioxide a pollutant, saying it's dirty and all the rest. Well, here now we have gas stoves that are people should
Steve,
know that
I want to
gas
interrupt for a
stoves
minute.
are very good.
Yeah,
sure.
I wish that I had known how they determined the dangerous that the gas stoves are dangerous. I wish I had known that vignette, because Illinois passed a bill requiring additional labeling for gas stoves, saying that they are dangerous. And this bill just passed. And of course, the Republicans were up in arms because they know that this is just if we can get everybody to agree that a gas stove is dangerous, then the next thing we can do is ban it in a future bill, right? But I wish I had that example in front of the legislators to argue back and forth, because I don't think anybody knows that that's the kind of junk science that they did to determine that.
I can mail you about a 20-page paper. I responded to a study in California, I think it was last summer, that was talking about this. But again, these levels of pollutants are very, very small, parts per billion. They are not harmful to anybody. People should be secure that their gas stoves are not causing dangerous pollutant issues. And the problem, of course, is that you put in electric stoves and electric baseboard heat, they're 2 to 4 times more expensive than gas. Yep. So we have a war going on right now in the United States. The ones that get all the headlines, the states are California, Oregon, Washington, New York, Massachusetts, Maryland. Those 6 states have passed either statewide or city or county gas bans, saying that when you build a new building, you can't put in gas appliances. At the same time, we have 19 states that have passed state laws saying your local town, your local county cannot ban certain energy. And the great thing about all this is that just this week, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in California, in a unanimous decision, struck down the law of the city of Berkeley of California. Berkeley was the first city in the nation to ban gas stoves. And they basically said that this law, that the Berkeley law, goes against the Energy Policy and Conservation Act of 1975 at a federal level, which prohibits regulations that favor one type of fuel over another. So this is really a ruling, again, a liberal court, but a 3-0 unanimous. And I think it's going to make it very, very difficult for all of these states. And the people who sued were the restaurant owners of California, because they like cooking with gas. I mean, it's much more effective than electric. When you shut it off, the heat goes off. You don't have to kind of move your pots around. And but it's all of this is driven by fears of human climate change. There's again just a really sad situation, and at some point the world's going to wake up from this.
Well, You gave us a lot of other good charts to show. You showed the renewables and the electricity blackouts. I mean, just speak to that briefly about how the coming problems with the electrification of everything. I mean, this is not sustainable.
Right. So my new book, Green Breakdown, predicts a coming renewable energy failure. The world has this goal of being net zero by 2050, which says all of our industries and all of our transportation, all of our utilities are supposed to get rid of hydrocarbons, coal, oil, and natural gas, and everything we do, and replace them with electricity from wind and solar, with hydrogen, with carbon capture and storage. That is not going to happen. It's just wind and solar are fundamentally incompatible with always-on electricity systems, because they're intermittent. And the more of them you put into your system, you start having blackouts, like we had in California in 2020, like the lethal blackouts in Texas in 2021. And even Europe now has stepped back from their green policies. They have the most renewables in the world, but Germany just restarted 27 coal-fired power plants.
Wow.
They're building 25 new natural gas terminals.
Wow.
In Europe, because they can no longer get it from Russia through pipelines. So they're building all these gas terminals, and we're shipping it to them from the United States. But that's going to be very, very expensive for them. And so Europe is retreating from green energy. Even though they don't publicly say that, that's exactly what's going on. We also have a tremendous problem with electricity prices. California in the last 2 years has surpassed New England. It's now the second most expensive state in the nation for electricity, behind Hawaii. It's more expensive than any other lower 48 state. 26 cents a kilowatt hour, double its local neighbors. And how are those green policies working out? At some point, people are going to say, we got rolling blackouts, we've got very high gas electricity prices. Why don't we go back to something that works and that we can afford? And I believe that's what's going to happen with the green movement. So it's going to be sure interesting to watch over the next couple decades.
So, I mean, again, Steve's new book, Green Breakdown, The Coming Renewable Energy Failure. It sounds like that is a book that sums up essentially the last 20 years of this vast experiment that now we do see in Europe is just not coming to fruition. Is that right?
Yeah, and I go through utilities. Well, it starts with the history of energy and the abundance of low-cost energy and the need in developing nations that don't have it. It talks about the war on hydrocarbon energy. It talks about utilities trying to switch to wind and solar. It talks about electric vehicles. It talks about shipping and airlines. It talks about heavy industry and this drive for hydrogen and carbon capture and storage, which we need to discuss on another show. It's crazy. And finally predicts a green energy breakdown. It's going to take a couple decades, but we're already starting to see it. And I think we're going to have transnational energy crises. We're going to have blackouts. We're going to have rising prices. So the world is going to return to something that's sensible. And oh, by the way, on this next 20-year path, people are going to realize that we can't control global temperatures by controlling carbon dioxide. So the whole basis for all of this is going to disappear.
Wow, that's great. Okay, awesome information. Again, I'm so thankful that you could come on our program, Steve. And I want to, listeners, we are going to get back to this because I have a whole another couple pages about this carbon sequestration plan, and it affects us in Illinois. Yeah. They are talking about sinkholing right around Decatur and building massive, pipelines coming in from Nebraska and South Dakota and Iowa, where these ethanol plants are, and Illinois, and essentially taking them up to North Dakota or into Illinois through pipelines to liquefy CO2 and then sequester it into the ground. I mean, it sounds like complete nonsense. And they're all doing this simply so they can comply with California emission standards and California CO2 standards, rather, so that they can sell their product, their ethanol product in that state. It is a total boondoggle. It's complete crap. And they're using eminent domain. They're actually coming in and trying to force farmers through eminent domain, a private company taking over private land using a legal government use of eminent domain. And it's wrong. We've got a lot more to discuss on this topic. Steve, thank you so much. I am so glad that you have written essentially the Bible on energy and renewable energy, and we'll be getting that as soon as it's ready on July 1st. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us on the program, The Real Story with Jeanne Ives.